Hi Otters, and welcome back to another English lesson. So today we are going to be starting to write the we're starting to innovate, the resolution of our story. Now, we're going to split our resolution into 2 days because it's quite a large chunk of the story. So we're not going to do all of the resolution box today. Before I start our lesson, could you please pause me whilst you write the date and learning objective? Press play when you're ready to carry on. Now that you've written the LO and date, I would like you to have a look through your problem. So I'm asking you to edit your innovation of the problem and think about, did you remember a question mark at the end of your question? Do your proper nouns start with a capital letter? And remember, this means any name. So I've got Lucy and Grandpa, Dad and Dad in my story. So all of them need capital letters because they are proper nouns. Pause me whilst you go through and edit your last piece of work and press play when you're ready to move on. Now that you've edited your work, you should have had a read through it as you went, and you should have a really clear idea where we are in the story. Just in case you're not quite sure where we are in the story, I would like you please to have a go at practicing your story map. Now we have practiced this absolutely loads now, so you should find it really easy to remember it and to recite your story map. Pause me whilst you practice your story map and press play when you're ready to carry on. Now that you've practiced your story map, you've got George's Marvellous Concoction clearly in your head. Hopefully now you're going to recognise the next part of the story that we're about to write. The part of the story that we're focusing on today is this part of the story map. If you would like to practice just this part of the story map, now is the time to pause me whilst you do that. The text in particular that we're going to be doing today is this. I'm just going to read it out for you. You can follow it on the screen if you would like. Terrified, George set to work. There was no point in trying to find the medicine. He had to make a new one. Grabbing the biggest saucepan he could carry, he headed to the bathroom and began to fill the pan with the most glorious items: minty fresh toothpaste, luxurious shampoo, and a bottle of scarlet nail varnish. He took the pan downstairs and boiled it vigorously to melt all of the ingredients into a smooth liquid. That's the part of the model text that we're going to be innovating today. Before we start any writing, could you have a look through this section of the text and spot all of the different sentence types and the features that we've used? Pause me whilst you think of what I've included. Pause me whilst you think about what's been included. So hopefully you've spotted this emotion word comma sentence. So terrified, comma, George set to work. This is a really easy one for us to magpie and to innovate in our story. As well as this, we've got some subordinating conjunctions and clauses. So grabbing the biggest saucepan he could carry, he headed to the bathroom and began to fill the pan with the most glorious items. The subordinate clause here is grabbing the biggest saucepan he could carry, because that wouldn't make sense on its own. We've also combined that sentence with a colon to introduce a list. So here's our colon. What's the list that I've introduced? What are the 3 items that I've introduced using that colon? Well done. We've got minty fresh toothpaste, luxurious shampoo, and a bottle of scarlet nail varnish. When we're writing in a list, we'll be using our commas, except for the last 2 items. So luxurious shampoo and the bottle of scarlet nail varnish are the last 2 ones. So instead of a comma, we're going to have and. And then to finish off the paragraph, we've also used some adverbs to describe how the mixture boiled. And we're going to be using an adverb in our writing today. I'm just going to get my shared writing up, which is here. And I'm actually going to read this through because it's been a bit of a long weekend, okay? And I've slightly forgotten where I got up to. So follow with me and see if you can spot the different sentence types that I've used so far. Lucy's fabulous mixture. I'm going out to watch the football match. Be good and no squabbling, called Lucy's dad, standing by the front door. Lucy looked up from playing with her toys. Dad continued, don't forget to bake Grandpa his birthday cake. Lucy did not like Grandpa. He had greasy matted hair and small beady eyes. Haggard and vile, mean and strict, he was always telling her what to do. Before lunch, Lucy headed into the kitchen. When she flung open the door, she found the biggest mess she'd ever seen. The pesky cat had got in again. Worse than the mess, Grandpa's favourite chocolate cake recipe was missing. It was nowhere to be seen. Lucy, where are you? It's nearly time for my birthday treat, Grandpa bellowed from the front room. Lucy panicked. Her brow wrinkled and sweat beaded on her forehead. She bit her lip. What was she going to do? And that was where I got up to on Friday. So now I know that we're getting to the resolution. I'm just going to go back and look at this first sentence. So in our model text, we had terrified, George set to work. Now I'm not going to use terrified. I'm going to use another ED starter. So let's have a think. I'm going to go for worried, I think. Worried, comma, Lucy set to work. Full stop. Uh-oh, I've already made a mistake. That's not a good start to my writing. Have you spotted it yet? I've forgotten to indent on my new paragraph. Luckily, because I'm using a computer, I can add that in. But when you're starting your paragraph, please leave your indent so I can clearly see where the paragraphs start. So worried, Lucy set to work. It's your turn to think of an ED starter. So I've used worried, and we've had terrified in the model text. And then talk about your character. Pause me whilst you have a go at that sentence and press play when you're ready to move on. We're going on to the next sentence now. So the next one was, there was no point in trying to find the medicine. He had to make a new one. I'm actually going to magpie most of that. So instead of there was no point in trying to find the medicine, what object did I lose? Oh yes, I lost the recipe. I'm actually, instead of making a new recipe, I'm going to make a new cake. So my next sentence was going to be, there was no point in trying to find the original recipe. I like that, the original recipe. Full stop. She would just have to try and make a new one. She would just have to try and make a new one. And it's going to be an exclamation here because she's really proud she's come up with that idea. And so she's going to put a bit more emphasis on that sentence. Have you spotted my mistakes? Normally you'd be screaming at me now, Miss Smith, you've made a mistake. Hopefully you spotted that I spelt would incorrectly. It needs an O there. Have, that's just silly of me. It needs an E on the end. And then make, I've done the wrong A sound. It should be a split digraph with an E. She would just have to try and make a new one. I'm just going to read back what I've written so far. So worried, Lucy set to work. There was no point in trying to find the original recipe. She would just have to try and make a new one. It's your turn to pause me here and have a go at this sentence, please. Press play when you're ready to move on. Now, I'm just going to go back to my smart and I'm going to see where we've got up to. So my next sentence, this is a long sentence, in fact, so we're going to take our time with it. It says, grabbing the biggest saucepan he could carry, he headed to the bathroom and began to fill the pan with the most glorious items. Well, my Lucy, she's not going to go to the she's not going to grab a saucepan because I wouldn't use a saucepan to make a cake. What might I mix the cake in, I wonder? Oh, I know. So she's going to be grabbing the, I'm going to stick with biggest. I might think of a better word to describe it later, but I'm going to leave that for now. Grabbing the biggest mixing bowl she could carry, comma, because it's my subordinate clause. She headed to, oh, I'm not going to have headed to the kitchen. On my plan I had, let's go back. Where did she head to? I've forgotten. Let's have a look. Grabbing the biggest mixing bowl she could carry. Oh, I headed to the garden. And I'm not going to fill it with glorious items. I'm going to fill it with disgusting items. So let me write that here then. So grabbing the biggest mixing bowl she could carry, Lucy headed to the garden and began to fill it with the most disgusting things. I'm now going to use a colon to introduce a list. And this is going to be my list of disgusting things. I need to go back to my plan and see what I'd already decided on. So I decided on wriggly worms, slime from a slug, and rotten apples from the compost heap. Now, because I put so much detail on my plan, I can just copy this now. You might not have written them in a list, so you might have to add that in now. Got wriggly worms, comma, slime from a slug, and rotten apples from the compost heap. Full stop. Just going to scroll it down slightly because it's gone over 2 pages. And now I need to read back through it and check I'm happy with this sentence. So it says, grabbing the biggest mixing bowl she could carry, comma, because it's a subordinate clause, Lucy headed to the garden and began to fill it with the most disgusting things. Colon, because I'm going to introduce a list, wriggly worms, comma, slime from a slug, and rotten apples from the compost heap. I'm pretty proud of this sentence. Pause me here whilst you have a go at this one. Don't forget your commas and your colons, please. And then press play when you're ready to move on. That was a really long sentence, and now we've got one more sentence to do, and it's just as long as the one we've just written. I'm just going to go back onto here and see what it was in my in my model text, sorry. It said he took the pan downstairs and boiled it vigorously to melt all of the ingredients into a smooth liquid. So this is the part where your character mixes the ingredients together and they go back to wherever they were. So because Lucy's in the garden, she's going to be going back into the kitchen. So I'm going to have she took the bowl back into the kitchen because that's where she got it from. That's why she's going back there. If you're going to a new place, you wouldn't write back. You just say she took the bowl into the kitchen. So she took the bowl into the kitchen, and instead of boiling it vigorously, which was in our model text, I wouldn't boil a cake mixture. I would normally maybe whisk it, fold in some of the ingredients, or maybe I'm going to go for beat the mixture. Like you beat it with a whisk and beat the mixture. Now I did want an adverb to describe how I beat the mixture. So an ly word to how I beat the mixture. And I'm actually going to magpie vigorously. I was trying to see if I could think of a better adverb myself and I couldn't. And that's okay. If the model text has already got a good word and I can't make it any better, then you can magpie that. So, and beat the mixture vigorously. And she's doing this to, oh, it doesn't like how I spelled vigorously. We'll go back and have a look at that in a minute. Mixture vigorously to combine all of the ingredients into, and we had here, it was into a smooth liquid. Now, cake mixture isn't really a liquid. Instead, I'm going to say into a smooth, because you don't want a lumpy cake, into a smooth cake batter. Ooh, batter. Full stop. Now let's see. I've spelt vigorously wrong. I wonder if you can spot my mistake. How should I spell vigorously? It shouldn't have had that first U. Okay, it's just the U-O-U-S. I'm going to read back through the sentence and check it makes sense. She took the bowl back into the kitchen and beat the mixture vigorously to combine all of the ingredients into a smooth cake batter. Now, I've not spotted any other mistakes, but if you find any, please let me know, because that'd be a bit embarrassing if I keep getting it wrong. That is your last sentence for today. So if you've managed to do this quite speedily, you might have time to edit your work today rather than as a starter tomorrow. That's it from me today. So you're going to go finish this sentence for me, please. Thank you so much to those children that have sent me in their writing so far. I am very impressed with your presentation. So keep up the good work, and I'll be back tomorrow for our next part of the resolution. Bye.